Hello, is this Outside the Walls?
You are listening to Outside the Walls podcast, thoughts and perspectives that go beyond the walls of the church, with Jess Duncan.
I'm worried about you. I feel you are contributing to the downfall of society. That is literally a message that was sent to me a little over a year ago in response to my support of the Women's March and my open criticism of Donald Trump. This statement made by this woman was like throwing a match on a heaping dumpster of bitterness and resentment that had been building up over a lifetime. I spent much of the year just watching it burn. I was proud of my dumpster fire. I took comfort in it. I enjoyed warming my hands and feet by it. I was finding solace in my criticism and my bitterness. I looked at my cynicism not as a venom that was slowly poisoning me, but as a God-given spiritual gift. God had opened my eyes to the evils of the white evangelical church, and I was going to continue to make it known how much I despised them. If I'm completely honest, when Brandon asked me to join this podcast, I was excited at the opportunity to finally be able to crush these people. I have been coming up with so many witty comments and sarcastic comments, and I was just waiting to throw them at people like a grenade. And then Jesus comes along. He's always ruining my shit. And he stood next to me while I'm watching my beautiful dumpster fire and said, "They need me too." I have been hurt more by people who profess Christianity than any other people group. My childhood growing up in a strict fundamentalist church was not a positive experience. When I left that church, I was given a letter of apostasy and shunned by the people I had known since infancy. My own grandfather has said while shaking his head, "I just don't know why you're choosing to go to hell." That hurts. It's no wonder I have so much built up resentment towards Christians. The one group who should love me as they love themselves has dragged me through the mud, spit on me, and left me bruised and broken. I could easily put blame on my church hurt for the reason I am so cynical towards the evangelical church. How do I let go of this bitterness, hurt, anger, and unforgiving nature? I really don't know. This is just something I have been convicted of recently, and these are a few thoughts that I've had. I'm not as good at loving people as I thought I was. I've carried around my acceptance of people outside the church like a badge of honor. It is easy for me to love those who have been cast aside or marginalized by the church. I can love these people with no judgment and can even identify on some level the hurt they have experienced. Here's the thing though. What good am I at being a witness to the evangelical community if I am only criticizing them? How open are they going to be to welcoming the LGBTQ community if I continue to call them bigots? I feel challenged to instead show the same love towards them as I have showed towards the marginalized. It isn't going to be easy. I first need to pray that God soften my heart to those I consider enemies. I need to pray that I not be so irritable and approach these people with the same compassion I do for others. I cannot do this on my own. It is overwhelming to think about. However, I truly believe that God can change my heart. Through looking inward, I have discovered that a lot of this stems from pride. I have learned a lot through leaving the church I grew up in, deconstructing my faith, and figuring out what this whole reconstruction thing looks like. I truly feel that I am a better person, both mentally and spiritually, than I have ever been in regards to my faith. However, I cannot allow my newfound freedom and enlightenment, let me become so callous to those who haven't experienced it yet. I need to avoid the temptation of being just as legalistic as a fundamentalist background I escaped. I need to pray that I be humbled daily and I give thanks that the true Spirit of God has been revealed to me. I need to pray for those I disagree with, that God will draw them closer and continue to convict them to be more like Jesus. Lastly, I realize that I have been hiding behind the word discernment as a defense for my cynicism. Cynicism is not a spiritual gift. It is not a fruit of the Spirit. What good is my speaking truth if I do not do so in love? How am I to witness to the evangelical church if I don't come to them first with love? I shudder to think of how often I have ruined my witness with a sarcastic comment or critical statement that was not made in love, but made in a condescending tone. I need to humble myself because it is only by the grace of God I am where I am today, and I need the guidance of my Savior every single day. In Galatians 5, when Paul is speaking of the fruits of the Spirit and fighting against hatred, rage, dissension, and discord, he uses the word long-suffering. Often this word is translated to patience, but I like the word long-suffering more because long-suffering is showing patience in spite of difficulties, especially those caused by other people. If that isn't a better description of what it is like to love your evangelical neighbor, I don't know what is. Loving my evangelical neighbor is hard. I don't have all the answers, and this was an incredibly difficult episode for me to write because it isn't something I have figured out. This is something I'm in the process of figuring out. I pray that God grow my long-suffering. I pray that God give me the ability to show patience. I pray that through this process of loving people who are hard to love, I become more kind, more joyful, and sanctified.
Thank you for listening to Outside the Walls podcast. You can reach Brandon with thoughts and comments on Twitter at Brandon Andress or his website, brandonandress.com. We would love your 5-star ratings and reviews on iTunes, and please share this with a friend.